Kalakyaha, by the name eternal time, Paramatmanaha, of the super soul, Mahima, glories, Vedagarbhaha, Lord Brahma, the reservoir of the Vedas, Ata, hereafter, Yata, as it is, Arakshit, did create, Niboda, just try to understand, May, from me. Translation by Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Sri Maitreya said, O learned Vidura, so far I have explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his future of Kala. Now you can hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. Please repeat the translation. Sri Maitreya said, O learned Vidura, so far I have explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his future of Kala. Now you can hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. Next verse. Sasarjagre andatamishram atatamishram adikrat mahamoham cha tamascha jnana vrittayaha. Translation. Brahma first created the nescient engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory bodily conception or forgetfulness of one's real identity. Purport. Before the factual creation of the living entities in different varieties of species, the conditions under which a living being in the material world has to live were created by Brahma. Unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material conditions of life. Therefore, the first condition of material existence is forgetfulness of one's real identity. And by forgetting one's real identity, one is sure to be afraid of death, although a pure living soul is deathless and birthless. This false identification with material nature is the cause of false ownership of things which are offered by the arrangement of superior control. All material resources are offered to the living entity for his peaceful living and for the discharge of the duties of self-realization in conditioned life. But due to false identification, the conditioned soul becomes entrapped by the sense of false ownership of the property of the Supreme Lord. It is evident from this verse that Brahma himself is a creation of the Supreme Lord, and the 5 kinds of nescience which condition the living entities in material existence are creations of Brahma. It is simply ludicrous to think that the living entity to be equal with the Supreme Being when one can understand that the conditioned souls are under the influence of Brahma's magic wand. Patanjali also accepts that there are 5 kinds of nescience as mentioned herein. Doesn't see Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So starting with a new chapter, creation of the Kumaras and others. So this chapter is the basis because of questions asked by Vidura to Maitreya in the earlier chapters. So almost in 3.7, 3.8, 100 plus questions were asked about various topics. So in answer in a systematic way, every chapter was addressing to certain issues which were inquired by Vidura. So here it is starting about, after explaining about the Lord in the Kala future in the earlier chapter, Lord as time personified. Like we see in Bhagavad Gita, Kalosmi, I am the time personified, Krishna says. So how he is time personified, that is explained in the previous chapter. So here about Brahma as a secondary creator. The primary creator is the Lord, and Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. So what are his secondary creations? That describes this chapter. So it is said here, Maitreya Vacha, Maitreya is answering to Vidura. Iti te varnita kshatta. As of now, I have described unto you whatever you have inquired from me, O Vidura. Kalakyaha Paramatmanaha. I had spoken about the Supreme Lord whose expansion is Kala, who is Kala personified, Kalakyaha. Mahima Veda Garbhota, the glories of the Supreme Lord, Mahima, Veda Garbha, and now about Lord Brahma, Veda Garbha. Ata Yata Araksha Nibodame, how he is a secondary creator. And what and all did Brahma create? So in a systematic way, if you see, Lord had created certain things, over that Brahma had created. So what did Lord create and what did Brahma create? So that is the point that is answered here. And further he says, Sasarjagre Andatamishram. The first thing what Brahma created was Andatamishram. Ata Tamishram Adikrit, followed by Tamishram. Then Maha Moham cha Tamas cha Ajnana Vrittayaha. These are the 5 kinds of Ajnana Vrittayaha, the 5 kinds of nescient engagements, 5 kinds of ignorance, which entraps the living entity in this material world. We will understand about what are these 5 things and how this systematically it conditions a living entity. Then the purport Prabhupada says, the conditions under which a living being in the material world has to live were created by Brahma before the factual creation. If you have to understand about this perspective, before any layout is made, there will be an agricultural land. So they convert it into a residential area. So what do? First thing, they level the land, they mark the roads, they create drainage system, electricity system, water system. All the basic amenities are created. Then it will be sold. For people, they can build their house and they can start living from there. So that pre-arrangement, what is required for some person to come and stay in a layout. So this is what Brahma is doing. For our relatable example. Next. Unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material condition of life. Because this is the first position. When the living entity falls from the spiritual world, what happens to him? Because everybody say we are all eternal living entities, we are all with the Supreme Lord, we are all in Vaikuntha. What is this process of fall down? What do we actually become when we fall down? What is our first stage? Anybody has any idea? What is our first position in this material world? Brahma. The first thing a living entity, when he falls from the spiritual world, he becomes Brahma. Because what was the desire of that living entity when he fell down? He wanted to compete with Krishna. He wanted to become Krishna. He wanted to become the center of attraction. So what is the equivalent post in the material world, which is like you are treated like the best of everyone? That is Brahma. So in that way, everybody first becomes Brahma, and on subsequent karma, he falls down to living entities of various categories. Abrahma Bhuvana Lokal Punaravartino Arjuna. That 84 lakh species from all the way across the 14 planetary systems, he will be roaming around. So understanding that position, so first Brahma, he has to create a situation where other living entities have to be facilitated. Because Lord gave only 24 elements. Basically 16 elements he has given. Shodasha Kalani. That on combination with other elements, it will become 24 elements. That is how the Sankhya system is. The 24 material elements to manage this material world. After that, you require one soul, you require one super soul, you require one Kala, and you require the 3 modes of material nature. These are the various levels of Sankhya understanding. Atheistic people, they say there are only 24 elements to manage this world. Then different yoga people, somebody says 25, 26, 27, 28. All these subjects will be discussed further in Sankhya philosophy by Kapila Manu. Different perceptions about the subject. Because all these 28 elements are required to manage this entire material world. Because 24 material elements. And who is possessing these 24 elements? Jiva. In his body there are 24 elements. Anything within this material world. But spirit and matter, they are incompatible. So how to coordinate this thing? Paramatma. Paramatma is the interface. So Jiva requests Paramatma sanctions to matter and matter facilitates. Now for these things to happen, there should be a track of time, when it should sanction and how it should sanction. Kala takes care of that aspect, because from this material world there is a start of creation, there is an end of creation. For this material body there is a start date, there is an end date. So Kala is controlling that feature. Now to respond to this material living entities facilities is three modes of material nature, which will impact him in all levels from various perspectives, time, place, circumstances, everything will have that. The three modes, we have seen elaborately the impact of three modes in 14th chapter, 17th chapter, 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The same perspective. That is also one more controlling agent of a living entity. Because under three modes only, I think I am the doer. 3.27 of Bhagavad Gita, what does it say? Prakritai kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma. On what basis I am thinking I am ahankara? Because of modes of three modes nature only. So it is a personality which is impacting our consciousness. So it is one more element. So Vaishnavas give an elaborate analysis of how to treat everything as an energy of the Lord. And how to understand what is its specific position in the creation. So nothing will be uselessly created. No, everything will have its own impact. So then further. And by forgetting one's real identity, one is sure to be afraid of death, although a pure living soul is deathless and birthless. See what happened when we fall down from the spiritual world, we are 180 degrees ulta. What are the spiritual qualities a living entity possesses? Sat, Chit, Ananda. This is our original nature in spiritual world. Sat, eternal. Chit, full of knowledge. Ananda, always happiness. Now the reflection, what it will have? It will have ulta of the same thing. Sat, we don't want to die. This is a symbol. Everybody wants to have that eternal life, but we are forced to die because of 180 degrees ulta. Whatever we see, we want to remember, but we naturally forget. And we always seek happiness, but distress is enforced upon us because of that 180 degrees ulta. But the tendencies of that naturality, Sat, Chit, Ananda exist within us, but they cannot be fulfilled in this material body. That's what to say. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This material body is place of misery. And it is temporary. To experience the temporariness, all these qualities will enforce us in that direction. To come out of this bodily conception and to renounce this material world. This is why it is planned in such a way that this is a jail for us to reform. So the living entity, why he is after always fearing after death? Because he is identifying with this body and he is fear of losing this body. This identity he will be losing because of misidentification. And what is the definition of bhakti? Sarva upadi vinurmuktam, free from all these designations. I am not this material perspective, material identification. That is why it is bringing you to the original constitutional position. Bhakti brings you to that original constitutional position. That Jivera Swarupahai Nityera Krishna Dasa, that I am eternally a servant of Krishna. I am not this material body. I am no more to be engaged in these material perspectives. And the 5 kinds of nescients that are created are Tamaha, which is ignorance of the Swarupa of the Jiva. The first thing is, it will cover me. I am not this Jiva. That is the ignorance, Tamaha. The next level comes is Moha, identification of the cells with the body. See, it's a systematic way how these 5 kinds of ignorance act. The third one, Maha Moha, applying everything, means applying progressiveness, possessiveness to objects of enjoyment. First I think, I am not the spirit soul. Second thing is, I am this body. Third thing is, anything connected with this body is mine. Fourth one, Tamishra, appearance of anger with the mental functions where one's enjoyment is obstructed. Because anything connected with me is mine. If somebody comes and takes away my object, I become angry. Last one is Andha Tamishra, an unconscious state brought on by anger. That is death. And to defend what is mine, thinking what is mine, competing with others, I may lose my life. Small example which we see often in newspapers and media. A young boy and young girl love. without consideration of external situations. Because love is blind. It doesn't see caste, creed, religion, all these things. And that's what we all say. So when they love, when they are deeply attached, first thing is they will be only conscious of how to please the opposite person. After a period of time, the possessiveness increases because of the interactions. After some time, if the parents of one party doesn't agree, then they try to artificially control, take away, elope. That is one aspect. Or if that girl is getting married to somebody else, what this crazy person thinks? He becomes very angry. He thinks this object is meant for me. This girl is meant for me. Now she is cheating me or she is going away with somebody. So if the entity which is not meant for me, it should not be meant for anybody else. Different scenarios, how it will come out. So what he does, he will try to go and harm the opposite person. Because if you are not marrying me, nobody should marry you. That is one perspective. Or both of them, if parents are not allowing, they may either commit suicide. Both of them might commit suicide. Because the situation is not favorable for us, let us end this and we will happily live forever elsewhere. We don't know where that elsewhere is. So I am saying how the situations, naturally people think that they can avoid the situation just by committing suicide. So is it practical? Are you able to get a solution by committing suicide? Is that actually the system? So like this, all this foolish way people respond. Because all these 5 kinds of nescience. In a systematic way it will brainwash. So Prabhupada had already explained about this subject. So these names are Tamaha, Moha, Mahamoha, Tamishra and Andatamishra. Patanjali has also given in his yoga system a similar 5-stage process. That's what mentioned in the purport here. That 5-stage process is known as Avidya, Ashmita. First one is ignorance, Avidya. Then is Ashmita, false identity, I am this body. Then Raga, attachment with the subject. Then Dvesha, repulsion. And finally, Abhiniveshaha, fear of death. The same thing in a different terminology, same subject. And finally, foolish to think that the living entity is equal to the Supreme Lord. Everybody thinks, Ishvara aham aham bhoga, I am that same Ishvara. But what is their foolishness? Brahma himself is a creation of this material world. And everything is further created by Brahma. So we are all under the magic of Brahma. Brahma Maya. And this shows how insignificant we are. And we say we are competing with the Lord. See, most of the people, they say, Brahma Rasina Rata Evara Marchareranta. We all hear. Means Brahma is already destined to us. As soon as you take birth, or before we take birth itself, when we come into this material world, 5 things that are destined, it seems, which cannot be changed. How long will you live? How will you look? What will be your education? Some basic 5 aspects were there which are already predestined. You cannot change that. That's why it is said, once it is written by Brahma, nobody can change. Only certain aspects, there will be some opportunity for us to go out of some karma aspects and all, which are, we do the prayaschitta, something or all these things and all to come out of the situation. Or else, generally it is very difficult for us to come out of that situation. So, in Bhagavatam, in one more place, the same point, these 5 aspects have been elaborated in a more way, where we can know what is actually each independent perspective. It says, Sasarja chayaya vidyam pancha parvanam agrataha tamishram andatamishram tamo moha mahatamaha. So Sasarja, it was created. Chayaya avidyam, a shadow of ignorance. Pancha parvanam agrataha. First, they were created these 5 aspects of nescience. Tamishram, andatamishram, tamo, moho, mahatamaha. All these 5 aspects are created. So Prabhupada explains there in detail. He says, the first condition is tamishra, being envious of the Supreme Lord. So why did we come to this material world? The first thing is, we are envious of the Supreme Lord. When we see everybody respecting one person, everybody trying to please one person, everybody trying to serve that one person, naturally we feel, why I can't be in that position? Why I can't be the center of attraction? Why everybody come to me, discuss with me, praise me, all these things, whatever that Krishna is experiencing, why I can't become Krishna? When I can't become, I become envious of him. Okay, this is the first nature, what the living entity goes through. The first condition is exhibited in the form of anger. Because when you don't become, you become angry on the subject. So consequently, every living entity has a minute independence. Whenever they come to this world, every jiva has a minute independence. And to think that he can also enjoy like the Supreme Lord, because this is an artificial world and he is given his opportunity to facilitate. Lord has facilitated this material world for enjoyment, for the living entity. But it is false enjoyment. It is not the complete enjoyment. That people have to understand. So why shall I not be free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? This forgetfulness of the constituted position is due to because of anger or enviousness. Then the living entity, being the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he can never by constitution be an equal enjoyer like the Lord. The position of the Lord is unlimited and the jiva is minute. So in what context can he ever equate with the Lord? Anu and Vibhu can never be equated. Zero can never be equal to infinity. So when one forgets his position and he thinks that he is the Supreme Lord, he is in the state called as Tamishra. So this can be experienced even in spirituality. Mayavadi people, what do they say? That we are all finally God. We are all Narayana. So this is what the Tamishra exhibited even in spiritual perspectives. Unless and until you are clear in your consciousness, this ignorance is acting even in that level. This is the first step. The next step, Andha Tamishra, considering death to be ultimate end. The atheists generally think that the body is the self. Yes, because I am this body, I am meant for enjoyment of this body to facilitate everything this body demands. So thus they want to enjoy this material life as far as possible, to the fullest extent. Like behind the cars also they write, eat, drink, merry, something like that is there, no? Live. What will be they writing? Huh? Something like that. You are here for enjoyment. Let us enjoy to the last moment. This is what their captions will be. So as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit sinful activities or what. If you are happy, this is that Charvaka Muni philosophy. Runam krutva grutam pibet yavad jivan sukam jivet. Beg, borrow or steal, you have to eat ghee to be happy in this world. This is his philosophy. Because who is going to check after you die? This body is finished. No. Where is the account? So there is nobody to keep track. That is what their philosophy is. So no one is responsible for anything one does in this life. The atheistic conception of life is killing the human civilization. It is without knowledge of the continuation of the eternal life. They can't understand that there is a karma factor which is keeping track of every living entity. There are witnesses. People may say, I am doing an activity where nobody is a witness, but there are many witnesses. The light is a witness, the darkness is a witness, the sun is a witness, the moon is a witness, the air is a witness, the fire is a witness. Like when we all take initiation also, we take initiation in front of 4 people. 4 or 3? In front of fire, in front of the Supreme Lord, in front of Acharya, and in front of Vaishnavas. So that the commitment you are saying, I am going to chant the follow the 4 regulative principles and chant the holy name for rest of my life. So 4 people are witness. Even in marriage, when marriage is happening, Panchabhuta Sakshiga, they chant some of the mantra that all the 5 elements are the witness for my marriage. So in that way, that there is witness. We all speak. When somebody does a mistake to me, what we say? There is somebody superior watching you. Kala will give you back. We all quote these statements. When it practically comes, we don't believe in the statement what we are quoting. That is the problem with us. Then the third one is Tamaha, the condition of not knowing anything about the spirit soul. Because in this material world, 99% of the jivas are ignorant of their identity, that they are a spirit soul who are engrossed in this material body. So everyone is thinking, I am this body, and the information of the spirit soul is lost. They are misguided, always thinking that anything in relationship with this body is mine, and I am here to facilitate for that relationship. And they think this whole world is just meant for sexual pleasure. That this is what the demoniac tendencies are. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, they say this material world is created just based on sexual pleasure. This is the third level of ignorance. Then the fourth level, moha, illusion of the bodily concept of life, of me and mine. So these attachments, but generally raga will increase, raga means attachment, will increase our moha in this world. So in that way, we think that I am this body and everything connected with this body is mine, and I have to protect to that perspective. To the last moment, I have to fight for it. And the whole world becomes either sectarian, family, national, they fight with one another just based on this attachment. I feel I am this part of this community, I am the part of this state, I am part of this country, I am part of this world. Like that we start fighting with one another. Because of that sectarian feelings, which are all because of this attachment to this body and bodily concept of life. Next, finally is Maha Moha, to be mad after material enjoyment. Especially in this age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. They want all sorts of happiness at their fingertips. And they are ready to spend anything and everything for that expenses. And this is the stage where everyone are experienced to come. See, like a rich man, he spends everything very luxuriantly. The poor man, what is he thinking? Or one day I have to come to that stage. I have to live luxuriously. See, always we are eating, seeing the next man's plate. In your plate, 4 items are there. In his plate, 40 items are there. You are always thinking, seeing that plate and you are eating your food. So when will it be happy and when it will be comfortable in eating? This is a wrong perspective. Be satisfied with whatever accord. Yadrishta labha santushtaha. Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. Be satisfied whatever is accorded to you. Don't imitate others. So there were 2 boys who were friends. Both houses are front and front. So one is a rich man, the other one is a very poor man. The poor boy always becomes fascinated by that rich boy. So he always wants to imitate that rich boy. So Deepavali festival has come. So the rich man, how do we celebrate? In the evening, we put lights everywhere, lamps everywhere. And we burn crackers. Puja will happen inside the house, all these things and all. The rich boy, he was doing all the arrangements. So he started keeping lamps at his door. The poor boy also kept at his door. Then on the parapet wall, he had kept some lamps. So this boy also kept some on his parapet wall, some lamps. Then he went to the top of the house, and on the top also he started placing the lamps. This poor boy's house is thatched house. So he went and kept it on the thatched house top. What happened? Next moment, the entire hut is burnt. So imitation to what level? Just because he is putting on his cement floor, you cannot imitate on your thatched hut. See, we don't realize this is what competition we are thinking. We are thinking I am competing with me. I am actually self-destruction I am doing. And one more perspective of this ignorance we see. Okay, before coming to Krishna consciousness earlier, how many of you played video games? So most of us have this experience. Earlier it was in old computers where very small, minute experience of movement, all these things and all. Then came that hand consoles. You can play in your hand all these things and all. Some 999 games like Brick, some Snake, some all these small games are there. Then came system-oriented games. Mario, what else more? Some car runner, all these things and all. Then came more interactive games, 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D. Now, if you walk outside also, there will be an experience. Earlier in movies also, first there was 2D movies. Then you came special classes to watch 3D movies. Now, 4D movies means you will physically be able to experience that. They will be given to you, that VR goggles. If you place onto that, as if you are going through that. The bus is coming and hitting you. You will be, you know how this experience happens. So they are bringing you that illusion of the higher category. And we are thinking that is reality. And there are games in such a way that people continuously play for hours long, days long, that many people have committed, they have fallen to death because they have not eaten or drunk for almost some 30 hours, 40 hours. Continuously they are playing. These games become addictive. And people are not conscious what is happening around them. And when small children, before 2019, before that Corona 1, children were told not to handle mobile. After Corona started, without mobile they can't live. Now, because 1 hour of class they will go in the mobile, but rest 15 hours or 10 hours they are playing with that games or unnecessary videos, all these things and all. So what is an impact on the child when it comes to all these addictive things? The general analysis what they have come is, the gaming is very addictive and it takes over the person's main way of coping with life. See, in a game, when there is a problem, you have lifelines. If you fail, you have one more life. And everything outside, people also think, oh, there are lifelines for me also outside. See, they think everything imagine with the world, with the game. Then, with other important areas of life being neglected or disrupted as a result. The social interactions, the relationships, they are always strained. Because you always treat like a game only. Opposite person is like a personality in the game. So, that natural feelings between a person to person doesn't exist there. The harmful effects are mentioned. This is in a research article. They say, increased aggressive thoughts and aggressive behaviors, particularly in children under age of 10. When they do too much addiction to these games, young children, they become carried away. They become very aggressive. Aggressive means anger. The first stage of illusion, anger is starting out. Then, increased risk of light-induced seizures. Means too much absorption. In Krishna consciousness, we go to samadhi. Too much absorption in this game, we go to illusion. And this body is too much thinking. Even in the night when you sleep, you will be chanting only what you are seeing. Because in the night also you are thinking, dreaming of that game only. So body will start, like, seizures means, what does seizures means? Fits. Body will start like, he's got some fits or something like that it will be. Musculoskeletal disorders and increased metabolic rate. Because of too much that game, what is happening is pressure is there on the jiva. So excessive pressure creates excessive heart attack. Sometimes in a cricket match, when the best player becomes out in a World Cup, India-Pakistan match, Sachin Tendulkar is out on 0. Many people committed suicide earlier. Why? Because they are attaching to that personality and they are thinking if that person is out, Indian team is lost. They can't handle. Two things are there in this world. Excessive happiness, excessive distress cause heart attack. These two things. When you are extremely happy, you will die out of extreme happiness. When you are extremely sad, you die of extreme sorrow. Either way we die. People don't realize that. The death is as sure as birth. People don't realize this. And reduced pro-social behaviors in social interactions. People are not in a conventional way. They are interacting with others. There will be restriction. There will be the whole time they are focusing on. They will be everybody will be sitting in a lecture or anything, but they will be doing in their work in their work. It means they are not in a cooperative mode, and it becomes like something. Earlier, this TikTok was there, so people start imitating. There was one TikTok in which it says, you start the car, come out of the car, and start in front of the dancing in front of the car. This was one famous TikTok which was there. So many people started doing that. But because the car was started, it was moving, and he's dancing according to the movement of the car. But people are so unconscious that it was happening, that cars went and hit accidents or hit somebody. What is happening is all these crazy things. Somebody brings out one crazy attitude and whole world wants to follow that. That challenge, this challenge, it's all challenge. And it is a foolish thing what people are trying to do. At the risk of not only their health, wealth, all these things, and let others' perspective also. So this is a systematic way how people are losing their consciousness effort, how to understand this world and how to come out of these nescient engagements. So what is the solution for this? Is there any solution to come out of this ignorance? So Bhagavatam says the solution for this perspective is Tasyatvam tamaso andasya dushparasya adya paragam sachakshur janmanamante labdam me tvad anugraha. So Devahuti is addressing to her son. She is saying, Tasyatvam, your lordship, dushparasya adya paragam, you are the only means of getting out of this material world of tamo andasya, of this darkest region of ignorance. Because you are the satchakshuhu, you are the transcendental eye. What is required in darkness? You require the light to cross over this darkness. And that light is a transcendental, the Lord is the transcendental light. Satchakshuhu, by which tvad anugrahat, by your mercy, janmanam ante labdam me, I have obtained you after many, many lives and births. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanaman mam prapadyate. After many, many lifetimes only one comes to a point of surrendering to the Supreme Lord. It's not an easy aspect. So only by devotion service can one come out of this ignorance. That is what the point what it is saying. And unless devotion service, that too, how will we get the devotion service? Oye rupe brahmanda brahmite kona bhagyavan jeev Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. In a rupe brahmanda brahmite, everybody are roaming within this brahmanda brahmite. Kona bhagyavan jeev, one living entity who is very fortunate. Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. By the mercy of Guru, one gets devotion service. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets the spiritual master. One starts this process of devotion service. So this is the only way, by engaging in bhakti, one can come out of this situation. And to facilitate this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come and given us the direction. In one purport, Prabhupada says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu drive away the 5 kinds of ignorance of the conditioned soul. In the Mahabharata Udyoga Parva, these 5 kinds of ignorance are described as follows. Accepting the body to be the self, making material sense gratification as one standard of enjoyment, being anxious due to material identification, lamenting, and thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya eradicate these 5 kinds of ignorance. Whatever one sees or otherwise experiences, one should know to be simply an exhibition of the Supreme Lord's energy. Everything is manifestation of Krishna. So this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. How one can come out of this darkness, how one can come out of this ignorance of these different stages and come to the reality that you are a living entity, you are meant for the service of the Lord, and you are here for going back home, back to Godhead. So only by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the acharyas in the parampara system, that for the deliverance of all the living entities, they have come forward into this material world, acting like one of us, to inspire all of us to get attracted to Him, and so that we'll all endeavor in the direction of going back home, back to Godhead, and render in our original constitutional position of servant to the Supreme Lord in various capacities. So by their mercy, we are all enjoying at least this knowledge that I am not this body, I am spirit soul. But implementation wise, we may not be perfect. At some moments, we may be still feeling that I am this body, I am acting in that level of this body. But we are in the process, but assured we will get purified if you stick on to the commitments what were given to us. So I'll stop here. Any questions or doubts?
Hare Krishna, bro. Like you give example of that TikTok video where a person who comes out of car and starts without understanding the consequences and all. Similarly, in our Vaishnava community also, being a neophyte, we'll also observe some devotees because of their smartness, because of their talent and all, and we try to follow or imitate them as well. But we don't know, like because of his past karma or because of what reasons it could be, we don't. But how we take it, bro? Like, should we try to?
So one thing is we have to understand what is our current reality. We should never imitate others. Like earlier, there was one devotee when I was in Bangalore. Seva counter, we all know how the Seva counter works. So there was one devotee who was very smart enough. So anybody comes to the Seva counter, he makes to them donate to the temple. So other devotee who was getting trained under him, he thought, okay, it is the way, now I have understood. Now I'll also start implementing. Almost like then he was saying, koi aayega to baithega to aaj hi karne ka hai, abhi karne ka hai. He'll be like putting a chaku in front of the person and saying, abhi donate karo. In words, it is the same implementation. No, chaku is not there, that's it. The opposite people are getting frustrated. There is a way how marketing people know the knack of connecting to the opposite person. Somebody has this natural inbuilt ability. They can connect to anyone and everyone so faster. So we cannot imitate them. So what happens if you start imitating, the opposite person will get offended. And we have to realize when there is an inability in us, we have to realize that we are not meant for that purpose and we have to get trained in that purpose. We have to act that smart. So material world is always like we become fascination is correct, but understand what is my position first. Everybody wants to imitate Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva drank poison. I will also drink poison. But what is the effect? Lord Shiva will hold on here, but I can't hold. I will die. Then next moment I will die. So imitation to what level? This is what practical perspective is required. Okay, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700. హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్